Hey everybody, I'm Logan Alec. I'm a CPA. I'm a CPA, I'm not an EA. I do have an IRS enrolled agent on staff. Okay. Some of my staff are pursuing the EA. Some of my staff are pursuing CPA. Some of you have worked with Andrea, tax attorney here on staff, or Kevin. So this video is not intended to bash any particular license or credential, but I just want to set the record straight on some things. Okay. And the impetus, the kind of the origin story for this video is this LinkedIn post that I saw from an EA, an enrolled agent. And there's just a lot of stuff wrong with this post, and I just want to kind of dissect what those things are, because I know a lot of people don't know what an IRS EA is, and so they see these posts by EAs that are a little bit, not explicitly, but kind of implicitly kind of self-aggrandizing with respect to the EA credential, and perhaps a little bit implicitly negative towards CPAs. Let's look at this post. Okay, I'm not going to read it word for word. I'm going to pick out various pieces of it and share some thoughts on it. Okay, so this guy, he's saying, who best represent you, CPA, EA, or attorney? CPA is very brief. Make sure you find one that focuses on tax. Okay, well, yeah, duh. EA, though, he's going all out. And he's saying things about EAs. But in my opinion, this may not be his intention, but just on the first read of this, seems to imply that the things he's saying about EAs are not necessarily true about CPAs, or the same thing couldn't be said about CPAs, right? For example, he's saying that EAs, can represent you in all 50 states, no matter what state you're in, okay? Well, the same thing could be said about CPAs. The same thing could be said about attorneys, okay? And a lot of EAs, I think they get this wrong, right? So for those of you who don't know, the enrolled agent credential, it is issued by the federal government, by Treasury Department, okay? So it's a federal thing. CPAs and attorneys, we're licensed by our states. As a CPA, the State Board of Accountancy; as an attorney, the State Bar, okay? But just because I'm a CPA licensed in California, that doesn't mean that I can't represent before the IRS clients in any state in the United States, or even clients abroad, okay? Some of you who worked with Andrea, the tax attorney on our team, she's licensed in Florida. That doesn't mean she can only represent Florida residents before the IRS. She can be POA for clients across the country before the IRS. So when this EA comes out and says, specifically points out that EAs have that capability, it kind of reads to me that it's implying that CPAs don't. Or else, why didn't he say it about CPAs as well, right? Other thing here, he's saying that EAs, enrolled agents, live and breathe tax resolution, tax relief, tax representation before the collections division of the IRS. Well, sir, some EAs do, some EAs don't. I've known some EAs that they wouldn't know what to do on a resolution collections case to save their life because they've just been preparing tax returns their whole careers, right? And the same things could be said about CPAs, right? The same things could be said about tax attorneys. Maybe not, they've been preparing taxes their whole careers, but maybe they've been doing something else in the field of tax than representation before the collections division of the IRS their whole careers, right? So it's a little disingenuous to say that EAs live and breathe tax resolution. Sure, some do, some don't. I'm a CPA who lives and breathes tax resolution. Some CPAs do, some CPAs don't. And there's kind of this implication here that, well, EAs, they live and breathe tax resolution, but he's not saying the same thing about CPAs. And that just rubs me the wrong way. Then he makes some factual errors here that I kind of betray a misunderstanding on his part. Then he talks about like criminal tax cases, and he's saying, obviously if you have a criminal tax matter, you want to go to an attorney, and you wouldn't want to go to a tax attorney like, that mostly deals with the IRS, negotiations, you'd want to go to a really criminal tax attorney that specializes in those matters, because those are two very different things. But that's not my point. My point is that he gets this wrong. He's saying that, an EA or a CPA can help you with your criminal tax matter if they have the USTCP, that's the United States Tax Court Practitioner designation. And folks, that's just not true, because tax court doesn't hear criminal cases, right? So an EA or a CPA with that's been admitted to tax court with that U.S. Tax Court Practitioner designation, they couldn't help you with a criminal case anyway, right? They're no different than a CPA or EA who hasn't earned that credential, because tax court doesn't hear criminal cases. This guy thinks that tax court hears criminal cases. They don't. And so for some kind of expert on tax resolution matters, he seems pretty deficient in that knowledge base. Now, sometimes here at Choice Tax Relief, our tax prep team, we will be contacted by criminal tax attorneys, right? And we'll have what's called a Covell letter, a Covell agreement, where we're working under that criminal tax attorney, right? Or even, our non-criminal tax attorney here on staff work under the criminal tax attorney. And the reason for that Covell arrangement is privilege. Attorney-client privilege is very strong, and we want whatever we do for this, particular client or set of clients to be protected under that privilege as well. And so that's why in those very rare cases where there is, a potential criminal charge or an active criminal charge, that we operate under Covell. But those are very rare. Point is, this is completely wrong. USTCP designation won't magically make an EA or CPA be allowed to represent someone in criminal tax matters, because all the USTCP is a designation for an EA or CPA to represent someone in tax court, and tax court doesn't hear criminal cases. So, and also I don't want to be the, grammar Nazi, but dude, you don't need all those apostrophes, believe me. Anyway, folks, I hope, okay, so at the end of the day, who should you go with? EA, CPA, attorney for your tax matter. Okay, well, I'm not gonna kind of, beat my chest here and say, oh, you gotta go with a CPA, That's just disingenuous. And I think there's strengths of each kind of credential. That's why we have at least one of each on our staff at Choice Tax Relief, CPA, EA, and attorney, right? And I want that diversity of credentialing and licensure and background so that we can serve our clients well. Really, the thing that matters the most is experience. At the end of the day, it matters who has the most experience dealing in representation before the IRS in a collections case. Okay. Just based on education and stuff like that, and how long it takes to get the credential, the ranking would be attorney, CPA, EA, right? But, some of you work with Leah here on staff. She's an EA, 20 years of experience in the field. I think more than that now. I would take her over the majority of tax attorneys, out practicing today. Because she just had so much experience doing the same things that tax attorneys are doing, right? So, I would humbly throw that out there. Don't be kind of fooled by just the credentials or the letters after someone's name. Understand their depth of experience. And I'm not saying that, you shouldn't work with someone who only has like a few years of experience if they're in a team that has that depth of experience, because everyone's got to learn somewhere, right? Everyone's got to learn somewhere. And we give opportunities for new staff to learn as well. We do have a core team that's very highly experienced, some more experienced than me. But we do give opportunities for learning to newer practitioners as well, right? because, you know, people retire eventually. Anyway, I think I'm just ranting at this point. I hope my point came across. This was not intended to be derogatory towards any particular credential or license, especially the enrolled agent credential. So I hope people understand it in that way. If you have a tax problem, you owe the IRS or your state at least $10,000 in MAC taxes, you have multiple years of unfiled tax returns, you know who to call. Choice Tax Relief, 866-8000-TAX, 866-8000-829. Get that free consultation. Or you can go to choicetaxrelief.com, fill out the form on the website, and we will reach out to you. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.